This gentleman's career in hockey can best be described as a tale of many stories. Did he want to join the NHL as a goon? He didn't join the NHL as a goon. He had a goon or enforcer thrust upon us. At one point, he was a household word internationally, household name, especially in Canada States, where if you mention his full name, people would get a shudder saying, well, there's going to be trouble. Dave the Hammer Schultz, for a lot of people, is one of the most controversial hockey players in the history of the NHL. Not because he was untalented, not because he showed true skill when not in the penalty box. He represented an era that we will never see again. What he called the enforcer era, where some of the less inclined teams in the NHL were intimidated by the style of the Broad Street Bullies, the Boston Bruins, and the other what he called fighting squads in the league. Now, Dave Schultz, 6'1", 185, the pride of Waldheim, Saskatchewan, but who grew up in Rosetown, Saskatchewan. First came to major prominence in the Swift Current junior hockey program. He played with Swift Current of the WCJHL in 68 with 69 points in 59 games, only 138 minutes and penalties, but 35 goals. He has a good scoring prowess. 69 with Swift Current, he had 32 points, but he moved on to Sorel, where the Flyers drafted him in the 5th round, 52nd overall, a steal, no doubt. 34 points in 18 games that year. Now, he began the 67 season with North Battleford of the Midget AAA Association, but found Swift Current a better fit for his early career. Now, just a little bit of background for people who don't know who this person is. The Philadelphia Flyers of the 1970s were enormously successful, winning 2 Stanley Cup championships and going to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals before their dynasty ended at the hands of the cleaner Montreal Canadiens. The Flyers had talent for sure, but it had the highest intimidation factor of any team in the NHL history. Known as the Broad Street Bullies, the Flyers had numerous tough guys who would drop the gloves and pummel an opponent at a moment's notice. Let's go over this, ladies and gentlemen. The 2 Watsons, Bobby Clarke, Dave Schultz, Ed Vadim, Jack McIlhargey, Mel Bridgman, Don Selesky, Mad Dog Kelly, Terry Crisp, Andre Dupont, Larry Goodenough, on and on and on. A very rugged team and a very talented team. And Barbara and McClish and sometimes Reggie Leach would get into a pushing match as well. Now, the king of the bullies, as he was called as well, was Dave the Hammer Schultz, who led the NHL in penalty minutes for 3 straight years, and for many, terrified his opponents. Without Schultz, the Flyers might not have been champions, and is sometimes forgotten that he was more than just a tough guy. In the 74 season, of course, the infamous campaign where he won the first cup, he led the league in penalty minutes, but also had a career-high 20 goals. Now, he had his debut on January 20th, 1972, against, of all teams, Chicago. They had a lot of battles with Chicago. Last NHL game was with Buffalo on Remembrance Day, 1979, November 11th, against Colorado. He eventually retired on September 15, 1980. Again, 2 Stanley Cups with the Flyers, 74 and 75, wearing his famous number 8 for the Flyers and later for Pittsburgh. Now, he set numerous league and team records. Again, most penalty minutes in one season, 472 and 75. Most penalty minutes in one playoff year, 139 for Philly in 74. Most penalty minutes in one playoff series, 116, ladies and gentlemen, against Toronto in 1976. Most penalty minutes in one game, 42 on April 22nd, 76. Again, Flyer records, most penalty minutes in a season, career playoff minutes, penalty minutes in one playoff year, penalty minutes in one playoff season, penalty minutes in one playoff game, and Pittsburgh records again, most penalty minutes for a forward in one season, 378 and 78, and most penalties in a game, 9 on April 6, 78 at Detroit. Now, he eventually, when he first came into the league, he was, like I said, he was not a goon. He was someone that was putting up decent numbers. But his first season with the Salem Rebels of the EHL, 356 medals and penalties, but 32 goals. Now, with the vaunted Quebec Aces, he also played with them in 1970, but 71 he put up 382 minutes and penalties with 37 points in 71 games. Now, 72, he played 76 games with the Richmond Robins, their very talented affiliate of the Flyers, 392 minutes and penalties. First year with the Flyers, he had only one game, but 73 he had 21 points in 76 games, 259 minutes and penalties, and one goal in the playoffs. Of course, the famous series loss against Montreal was a preamble to the 3 straight Cup final runs. Now, that 74 season, he had 36 points in 73 games, including 20 goals. 75, 472 minutes of penalties, the record, with only 83 minutes of penalties in the playoffs. 76 with the Flyers, his last season, 370 minutes of penalties, including 13 goals. He eventually found his way to LA, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and then the Rochester Americans. I think Buffalo gave up on him towards the end of his career. He would have played well into the 80s, but penalties and what they call reputation caught up with him. Now, he was represented by Al Nicholson, who was one of the big contractors with him at the time. Now, he did sign a WHA contract with the Raiders, who had drafted him, New York Raiders, but it was voided in August 1972 due to a court ruling. Now, he eventually signed a 2-year contract to remain in Philadelphia in 1972, and the stats are just beyond, ladies and gentlemen. He led the AHL with 356 minutes and penalties for Salem in 1970. He led the AHL and set a league record since broken with 382 minutes and penalties for Quebec in 71. He led the AHL and set a league record since broken with 392 minutes and penalties for Richmond in 72. And he also scored, get this, 2 hat-tricks for Philadelphia during the 74 season, January 3rd versus the Rangers and January 10th, 74. The hat-tricks came in consecutive home games at the Spectrum. That was front-page news, ladies and gentlemen, in Philadelphia. Never been seen before, never been seen since. Now, he was known again for his goal scoring on occasion. He scored a series-winning goal at 5:40 overtime to give the Flyers a first-round playoff sweep of the Flames on April 14, 74 in Atlanta. Anyway, he also, again, played on the Philly team that lost to Montreal in the 76 playoffs. He also led the Flyers that year with 90 minutes and penalties. Now, he tied the NHL record since broken for penalties in one game with 9 for Pittsburgh on April 6, 78 to Detroit. Now, he also set the Pittsburgh single-season record for penalty minutes in 78, and he led the NHL with 405 combined penalty minutes for LA and Pittsburgh in 78. Now, he retired from the NHL in 1980 with a league record since broken for career penalty minutes with 2,294, and he was eventually inducted into the Philadelphia Flyers Hall of Fame in a ceremony prior to the Flyers' home game versus New Jersey on November 16, 2009. Now, his full career could have came to an end. He had a bad kidney ailment in 1973, but had off-season surgery to correct it that year. But he also suffered a bad broken jaw in 76. Now, he has a very, very diverse career outside of hockey. He has worked in the Philadelphia area as a cable TV installation company vice president, along his brother, and also managed a skating rink in Havertown, Pennsylvania, in his early years after retirement. Now, he returned to the Philly area after coaching and was a salesman in the energy industry. He also works as a public speaker and maintains a website at davethehammerschultz.com. Now, coaching career was quite interesting as well. He was named the New York Slapshots of the EHL's head coach on September 13, 85, and remained there for the campaign. He served as Philadelphia's RHI, or Royal Hockey International, head coach in 94. He was named Madison's Colonial Hockey League head coach on September 5, 96, and remained there until the end of the season. He was also named Baton Rouge's head coach of the ECHL team prior to the 98 season, and remained in that position through the team's first 59 games. He was also named Mohawk Valley's UHL head coach prior to the 99 season, and stayed there for the campaign. He was named the Lee Valley Extreme UHL head coach on January 21st, 2000, prior to the team's scheduled inaugural season, and held that position until 2001. But the Extreme never played a game. He was also named Elmire's UHL head coach on February 28, 2005, and remained there until the end of the 2005 season. Now, he was also ACHL commissioner on July 8, 82, and remained there for the campaign. He was the Slapshots general manager from September 13, 85 until the end of the season, was part owner of and GM of the Philly roller hockey team in 94. He was named Madison's GM on September 15, 96 for the Colonial Hockey League and remained there for the campaign. He was named Mohawk Valley's director of hockey operations prior to 99 and stayed there for the campaign. Again, named Lee Valley Extreme head coach and stayed there again until it was officially disbanded. Now, he was also a singer. He released a song called Penalty Box at the height of his fame in 74-75 season, which charted locally. Again, was not known as a fighter before he entered pro hockey with the Flyers organization in 69. I'd like to see the conversation. You know, I haven't read Hammer's book for quite a while. They'll probably talk about it. But somebody probably come to him and said, "You're big, you're rugged. Can you take on this role?" And he accepted it. He decided to have Alan Eagleson as his agent, and that allowed him to have a long career in the NHL because Alan always spoke up with him to talk about his offensive skills as well. Now, the autobiography is called The Hammer, Confessions of a Hockey Enforcer, which was a bestseller in 1981, was under a lot of Christmas trees for a number of years. And he also played for the Flyers alumni team in the 2010 Winter Classic Outdoor Alumni Game at Fenway Park against Boston. So, a life in hockey can do a lot of stuff. Now, Stan Fischler, who co-wrote the book with Schultz, has said many times he was, he was a cerebral guy, and he said people forget that it was just a job. Now, he also was involved in wrestling. In '94, he served as a referee at WCW Slamboree for the match between the Nasty Boys against Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, and Kevin Sullivan. Now, he also was involved in a rule change. After injuring his wrist in a fight, Schultz decided to put on boxing wraps on his hands for protection. As things usually went, Dave had several fights in ensuing games while wearing the wraps. However, soon after, enforcers in both the NHL and the WHA started wearing similar hand protection. It was not to protect an already injured hand and wrist, but to prevent themselves from injury in a fight. Soon after this trick became popular, both the WHA and NHL passed what became known as the Schultz Rule, thus banning the boxing wrap's temporary involvement in professional ice hockey. And this is talked about in the indirectly in Slapshot with the Hanson brothers. Now, despite his successes, Schultz has later stated upon retirement he expressed regret about his role as an enforcer and a prominence in fighting in hockey, and he once wrote a open guest column to his son stating that fact. I saw Schultz play. I saw what Schultz did for the Flyers. He was not the only enforcer on the team. Okay? Some of the other players were dirtier. But with Schultz, he had a temper like a firecracker. He was not scared to drop the gloves. He took on everybody, ladies and gentlemen. But like Bob Probert eventually turned to liquor and bad decisions. But it's not easy being an enforcer. I don't feel sorry for Dave Schultz. He said many times, I had a role to play. But all I can say, he's got 2 Stanley Cups. He's got 3 Stanley Cup appearances. He's been a coach. He's been he's been an influence on a lot of players. But the 1970s was a different time, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of fighting in hockey. Toronto had Dragoons, Montreal, Boston, everybody else, Oakland, it was what it was. And the Flyers wanted to win, and how they had to win, they had to score goals, and they had to basically fight. You're going to tell me you're in the Spectrum in front of those rabid fans in Philadelphia not to fight? Geez, I was rocking and rolling, ladies and gentlemen. The games at the Spectrum, I missed those because you weren't sure the fans were booing or cheering because Moose Dupont was Moose and the Watson. But I remember a game against the Maple Leafs. I think the game I talked about, I think there was 400 minutes in penalties. How could you keep track? I've worked the book for hockey games before. I've learned from Dave Schultz. You got to make room for for a number of players. At least in number 8 was easy to put in the penalty, what I call a registry. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the legend of Dave Schultz. Like him or hate him, let me know what you think of him. I think he's still very underrated as a scorer. That's me. I saw him. Because, you give him a chance, he put the puck in the net. But if you're in the penalty box half the time, he could have easily scored 30 goals. You put him on that second line like Double Shift, McClish, or Barber and stuff. And I know he did play the power play every once in a while. So that got him a few goals. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Bye.